Welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you on this beautiful day. Finally, it's spring and I'm really enjoying the weather, but today is the topic of high-performing teams. And I really wanted to talk to you about this through the lens of brain health, because this week is Neurodiversity Week. And I think it's a great time to view high performance in the context of teams through the lens of brain health itself. Brain power and performance is what we're talking about. And this is rarely measured by anybody, indeed, when it comes to looking at high performance. People rarely measure how well someone's brain is performing, or they rarely measure how well the team's brains are performing. And brains run everything from ourselves to our families to organizations to the world. And we've seen the impact globally of having ineffective or brains that hurt themselves, can hurt other people, and also people who have brains that actually truly help themselves can help other people as well. And what I think is really key in this talk is to come to the topic of high performance through looking at how our brains truly function. And it's really easy, isn't it, when we talk about high performing teams, to look at it in the context of, are the processes in place? Do we have the right applications? Do we have the right tools and techniques in place within the workplace, whatever that may be, within our organization, to support the teams? Do we have the right people in the right leadership roles? Are we capitalizing on the experience and skill sets within our teams? But how often do we actually look at the brain power and performance of the individuals within the team to truly understand, are we optimizing the performance of the individual, and are we optimizing the performance of the team by drawing upon the unique capabilities that a person's brain brings to the team dynamic? And we often talk about the 3 circles, which is a team, task, and individual. But we rarely take the time to really look in detail as to what the individual attributes are from a brain diversity perspective, or from a brain power and performance perspective, to get the most out of that team. And it's really easy, isn't it, to say, well, we're going to be inclusive from a neurodiversity perspective. We're going to include people in our team. But how do you include those people in the team that have differences to what we are used to? And who are you as a leader to decide that your brain is working optimally and other people's brains are not optimal, or they are not the normal, if you don't know what optimal is in the context of brain power and performance, and particularly if you don't know what optimal is in the context of your own brain health? And how can we know if we don't measure? And it's rarely measured. People rarely measure their brain power and performance. People rarely look at the brain to understand how it's working. People rarely do the detailed work to truly understand all the factors that affect our brain health, that affect our brain power and performance, both at an individual level and also in a collective space, looking at the team level. And there are so many factors. So we look at the 5 pillars of brain health: our feelings, our actions, our connections, our thoughts and surroundings. And you can look at that at an individual standpoint, and you can also look at it from a collective. And we do assessments for our clients at the beginning of their journey and also at the end of their journey to understand where the movements have been in the context of the 5 pillars of brain health. And we also do assessments on the brain power and performance to understand what has shifted based on the action plan that's been given to them in the context of their brain power, their capacity, their level of resilience, and also their performance from a brain health perspective. And by doing that, by having the metrics, by having the knowledge to know, okay, how is this person performing? Are they getting the best out of their unique brain? If the answer is no, irrespective of how good your team is, you are never going to achieve high performance over the long term, because you have brains that are in trouble, and you're not going to achieve optimal performance because there are brains within the team that are in trouble. And if we don't take the time to understand what lies at the root cause of the trouble, and that doesn't have to be in the brain of the person itself. The troubles can lie within the team. The troubles can lie externally to the individual in terms of the surroundings. The trouble can lie in terms of their background and experiences, traumatic experiences they may have. If we don't take the time to understand the root cause of the struggles that they're experiencing and literally label them as being neurodiverse, wherein in fact we are all neurodiverse because we all have unique brains, but what we want to do is get the best out of the brains that we have, then you're never truly going to achieve high performance over the long term, and you're never truly going to achieve optimal performance. And I think this was inspired by a conversation that I had earlier on in the week, a presentation that I listened to, is that it's very easy to look at the situation as it stands, the team dynamics, as it were, and how that team is performing in the moment, and pay no attention to the upstream aspects that are seriously impacting the team's performance. And those upstream aspects could be how you enrolled people into your organization. It could be the choice of people, the type of people that you enrolled into the organization based on your organizational needs. It could be the cultural values that you have within your organization and how that manifests in terms of team performance and individual performance. It could be the food that you make available to your team. It could be the drinks that you make available to your team. It could be the expectation that you place on your people within your organization in terms of what work constitutes. And we, within the military, talk about fit for role. And fit for role includes exactly that, being fit for your role. And so part of our responsibility is to make sure that whatever organization we sit in, is that we are fit for role emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And it's so easy if you're not an organization that is an active, where you have to go out and about and do things as you would do in the military, to ignore the physical fitness and not think that it's important. But it really is important, because movement and exercise has been shown to be as effective, if not more effective in some studies, than antidepressants, certainly over the long term. It's vital to help us generate the neurotransmitters. So up to 90% of our neurotransmitters are generated in our gut. And it's exercise really helps us generate the appropriate neurotransmitters that support our brain health, including BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which helps us repair our brain cells and build our memory centers. It's an absolutely fundamental to improving our brain health over the long term. And if we don't, as an organization, or whatever organization you are in, consider all 4 quadrants of well-being within your team, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, as a core element that helps you achieve high performance, not only for your team, but for the individuals within your team, because you can't achieve high performance as a team effectively if you have individuals within your team that are not performing at their best. If you don't make that your priority, if you don't focus on your people as a priority, if you don't focus on their well-being as the first thing that you think about, and it's the last thing on your business agenda, you're never going to achieve high performance. Doesn't matter how much money you plug in to coaching, doesn't matter how much money you plug into training, doesn't matter how much money you plug into processes and applications, you'll never achieve high performance, because firstly, you'll never know what performance you currently have in the think tank of the brains within your organization. And you'll never have a metric to measure against to know what improvements can be made and what improvements have been made to enhance the performance of your teams. So it's really important that we don't think of well-being as the last thing on the business agenda, on the organization's agenda, as the aftermath thought, as the event that we maybe attend when we've got the time, or as the tick box exercise that it so often is in corporations to meet external assessment needs. And actually the reality is not much happens below the surface of the tick box exercise. But when you make it your priority, when it make the well-being of your people your priority, when you make brain health a priority, because every organization is run by brains, not by processes and procedures and applications. It's the brains within the organization that run that. When you make that your priority, when you make brain health, when you make brain power and performance your priority, only then are you truly on the way to building high performing teams over the long term. And this starts with the leadership taking ownership, with the leadership taking responsibility, with the leadership assessing themselves first and foremost to understand how their brain is working, whether it's working too hard or not enough. So leadership is fundamental, and it has to start from the top. We have to create role models in the organization in order to champion brain health. I'm not talking about mental health, because that puts people in a bucket of you're either faulty or you're not faulty, typically how it works. I'm talking about brain health, because brain health looks at all of the upstream issues. And because we all have a brain, there is no label, and we all have a unique brain. So it's not about how am I doing compared to everyone else. It's about how am I doing compared to myself yesterday, the day before. Am I performing better or am I performing worse? And that's really important. And once people know that they're getting the best out of their brain and their whole body health is optimized, then you can focus on, okay, how can we help these people continue to perform at their best with the right processes, the right procedures in place, the right technology, the right frameworks within the business, the right culture, the right spaces, the right time allocated to people. Then, and only then, can you truly be on your journey to building high performing teams. And we see this the world over. We see how there is this expectation that a person is a number. My number was 86239. I felt like a number when I was working in the corporate world. And we don't take into account that we're working with people, not numbers. And people have brains, and brains get sick because they're not allowed to work in the best way for them. Organizations can make brains poorly. We personally can make our brains poorly. Cultural expectations can make our brains poorly. Our behaviors can make our brains poorly. And there's so many other things that can make us poorly that doesn't necessarily constitute a mental health struggle, but exhibits itself in aggressive leadership. It exhibits itself in dictatorial leadership. It exhibits itself in people not being able to speak up because they're afraid. It exhibits itself in so many different ways that is not mental health. So high performance from a team perspective starts with focusing on looking at getting high performing brains within your team. I hope this serves you. If you have any questions about this, please post any you have in the comments, and I'll take some comments and questions now in the context of high performing teams or neurodiversity or whatever you have as a question around brain power and performance. I'm happy to take any questions. If you want to learn more about how we help individuals and organizations build high performing brains and high performing teams, then please reach out to us. You can connect with us through the link that's just been posted, ruthmaryallen.com/connect. We draw on all the aspects through the lens of brain health. We do the assessments, we understand the baseline, we do the cognitive assessments, not just the physical assessments, to understand what our client's start state is in terms of brain power and performance. And then the focus is on, okay, this is where you're at. What do we need to do now in order to get the best out of your brain and therefore the best out of your team? And we track that over time so that you can understand, with this intervention, is it a process and application, a personal intervention? Whatever intervention is put in place as part of an action plan, is that intervention working at an individual level? And is that intervention working at a team level? And how do we know what's working? So it's really important. So if you want to find out more, then please do connect with us to find out how we're leveraging the power of assessments and the power of apps to monitor cognitive performance, and all of the underlying frameworks that we use in terms of the coaching that we do to get the best out of your team so that your team can achieve high performance, not just now, but over the long term. It's Neurodiversity Week. This is all about your brain and getting the best out of your brain. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Know that you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better, and I'm here to show you how.